So it's Queer Marxism Week on my channel, which essentially means I'm going to be covering some of the most insane, dystopian, queer Marxist content all week. Queer Marxism might be known to you as queer theory, gender ideology. It's where all the crazy trans stuff comes from, all the crazy non-binary stuff comes from, all the content about attacks on parental rights, transing kids, queering kids, like every one of the most crazy things that people love to scream about online, it comes from queer Marxism, which is directly out of queer anarcho-communist subculture, and something that, quite frankly, even the people who claim to be experts in queer theory, like James Lindsay and Logan Lansing, neither of them have ever actually dived into queer anarcho-communist subculture. So, because I know this is going to be a new topic for a lot of people, except if you watched my content before, and, this will be old news for some people who have followed my content, but we need to bring new people along, and I know people ask me this all the time, like, Carlin, what actually is this stuff? What is the point of it? Because, if you listen to right-leaning media, they're going to tell you that this is all about pedophilia and grooming kids and making kids into drag queens. That's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. Some people will even tell you it's a Gnostic sex cult led by Oprah and the WEF and the New World Order. I'm not kidding. That is actually James Lindsay's position. That's true. That's the guy that conservatives prop up as the expert in all these things. His position is that queer theory is a Gnostic sex cult run by Oprah and the WEF as part of a New World Order conspiracy theory. That's literally his position. And that's not what it is. It's not any of those things. Now, I'm not saying that things that happen to kids aren't important, and I'm not saying kids shouldn't be protected of those things, but we do need to be honest about what the problem is, because what queer theory is actually so much worse. When we look at it, when we extrapolate it out to the bigger picture, it's so much worse, and it's going to have much more detrimental impacts on society. So let me explain to you what the far left believes, and this is what they believe. I'm not saying what I believe, I'm saying what they believe, based on watching hundreds of hours of queer Marxist training on my channel. You can go back and watch it. I've covered more Abolish the Family content than anyone on the internet. I've gone undercover at these types of events. I've gone undercover at queer events multiple times. I've been in the rooms with these people when the door is shut. I hear what they say to each other when they're not recording it, when they're only amongst friends. I know what their goals are. What the left believes is that capitalism, which they define as private property ownership, created the gender binary. The gender binary means men and women. Another name for the gender binary is the patriarchy. When capitalism created the gender binary, it put men in the workplace where they did all the work and got all the money and had access to all the power. It put women in the home doing the unpaid labor of raising the next generation of proletarian workers that will be oppressed under capitalism. Another way of saying that is raising kids. So what that means is the left believes that capitalism created the gender binary, which created the nuclear family. This is important, okay? Keep the nuclear family piece in the back pocket for right now. We're going to go back to the gender binary piece. The gender binary is a problem for the left. And we know this because one of the things they're trying to convince kids to do in school is to become non-binary. That's what genderqueer means. That's what gender fluid means. This is not about transitioning kids from being women to men or men to women. It's really not about that. In fact, the left doesn't like when they transition from one gender to the other. What the left wants is for them to abandon the gender binary altogether. The goal is to dismantle the binary. It's to get rid of men, and it's to get rid of women. It's to have no gender entirely. That's what they mean when they say gender equity. It's about flattening the hierarchy between men on top and women on the bottom. The way you do that, in the minds of the left, is you get rid of men and women. You get rid of gender entirely. If there is no gender, there is no hierarchy. We are all the same. That's what non-binary means. Non-binary means no binary. So anyone you see identifying as a they, them, a z-zer, a zim-zay, a fey-fair, or any other crazy pronoun, they are non-binary. They are in favor of eliminating the categories of men and women. That is the number one goal of queer Marxism. Why do they want to do that? Because if they eliminate the gender binary, that is also going to impact the nuclear family. Now, I think a lot of people know that one of the goals of the left is to abolish the nuclear family. But why would they want to do that? Why would they want to abolish their families? Well, it's not because they hate their parents, and it's not because they don't have kids. That's just reality. Although I think most people certainly have mommy and daddy issues, the reality is that the left does not want to abolish the family because of mommy and daddy issues, and many abolish the family activists actually have kids. So it's not that they don't have kids, they do have kids. And they're not saying they don't love their kids, they're not saying they don't love their parents. That's not the thought process behind it. The left wants to abolish the nuclear family because they believe that the nuclear family is the means of reproduction of capitalism. Remember, everything the left does is about wanting to abolish capitalism, but capitalism is not an economic system in their eyes. Capitalism is a social system. In order to abolish the social system, you have to abolish the institutions that reproduce or uphold that system. This is an idea called social reproduction theory. They talk about this a lot in their trainings. Actually, most abolish the family trainings are not called abolish the family, although many of them are. Most abolish the family trainings you can find online are about social reproduction theory. Social reproduction theory means, quite simply, that a social system will reproduce itself until it is disrupted. That if we have kids that are being raised in a capitalist environment within the privatized nuclear family, remember capitalism is defined as private property ownership. Parental rights are considered to be a form of private property by the far left. The individual nuclear family unit is considered to be a form of privatization. If you think about it in that way, you start to understand that if kids are raised within what the left calls the privatized nuclear family, they are going to grow up to believe in these capitalist values, and thus the nuclear family keeps reproducing capitalism over and over and over and over again until the nuclear family is disrupted. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to abolish the nuclear family because abolishing the nuclear family is the only way that they can get to abolishing capitalism. So, I mean, there's some good news here. I know this sounds really crazy, but there is good news here. The good news is that if we as a society protect the gender binary at all costs, protect the idea that there are men and women at all costs, and you can still be trans and protect this idea, by the way, because trans used to mean transition from man to woman or woman to man. So I'm not suggesting that you can't switch back and forth between the two, although I know people have certain feelings about that, but sometimes you need to put those feelings aside and just acknowledge what is. If a person is transitioning from a man to woman or a woman to man, they're still upholding the gender binary. They're not non-binary, and right now, that's all I really care about. So protecting the gender binary is our number one goal. Protecting the nuclear family is our number two goal. If we protect the gender binary and the nuclear family, the left cannot get what they want. They cannot get their Marxist revolution. It's not going to fully work. But that is the goal of queer Marxism. That is why queer Marxism has been deployed into our society. The goal is to abolish the gender binary because they believe capitalism created the gender binary created the nuclear family, and so if they abolish the gender binary, they will abolish the nuclear family by default. That is what the goal is. And again, I understand that a lot of people have said, this is about drag queens, this is about pedos and all this stuff. I'm not suggesting that protecting kids from sexualization isn't important. I'm not saying that. But think about the ramifications if they get their way in abolishing the gender binary. Think about the ramifications of that. That leads to the total Marxist overthrow of our society. And that's just the majority of what they're doing. And I'm sorry, I don't care what Libs of TikTok says about it. I don't care what James Lindsay says about it. I don't care whatever clickbait monger on Twitter says about it. I don't care. I have watched hundreds of hours of queer Marxist training, and here's what I know. They don't talk about sexualizing kids. They very rarely talk about sexualizing kids. They talk about abolishing the gender binary as an attack on the nuclear family, which they want to abolish because the nuclear family is the literal means of production of capitalism. That is what they talk about. That is where their energy is. That is what they are focused on. And so all the energy that gets sucked in to these other things that are not they're not non-issues, but they're not remotely as significant as the issue that's being ignored, and the issue that's being ignored is the true and sincere goal of queer Marxist activists in the United States. This is not an insignificant thing. These people are teaching your kids in school. These people are the ones that are convincing your kids that they're genderqueer. These are the people that are writing the books that go in the library that people are all upset about. They get all pissed off about the books. They don't ask, where the fuck did the books come from? The books came from the queer Marxist activists and the far left radical revolutionary socialist publishers. That's where they came came from. And the far left activists and the radical revolutionary socialist publishers churn out more books about queer Marxism all the goddamn time. They don't call it queer Marxism. They put some cartoons on it. They write a young adult fiction or something like that. They make it look all nice so it fits right into the bookstore, fits right into the library, and you don't even know what it is. You don't know what it is unless you know where to look for it. But if you understand, it is about abolishing the gender binary, which is an attack on the nuclear family, which is an attack on capitalism, then you start to understand what the left is doing and why they're doing it. So that's what you need to know about queer theory. And if you join me all week on my channel, and quite frankly, I might go into next week too. We might be doing this forever. You would be shocked at how much of this content I have unearthed in the past couple days. That was content that I hadn't already covered. Again, I've already covered hundreds of hours of this stuff. I have done, you can just search my YouTube channel for queer Marxism, gender ideology, social reproduction theory. You'll see I've already done literally hundreds of hours of this stuff on my channel. And I found more and more and more stuff that has just come up recently in the last year or two. There is an immense amount of activism going on in this area right now, and it's something that that no one is paying attention to but me. If you know someone else is paying attention to it, prove me wrong. Honestly, introduce them to me. I'd love to talk to them. I'm being serious about that. But I don't know anyone else is paying attention to this but me. And that terrifies me. That fucking terrifies me. Because this is a real goddamn problem and people are not taking it seriously. Well, they'll start to take it seriously when they lose their parental rights. Because that's what the big push is right now. People understand that. Maybe I glossed over the lead. The left considers parental rights to be a form of private property under capitalism. If you want to know where the attacks on parental rights are coming from, it's because the radical revolutionary socialist left do not believe your parental rights over your children should exist. How much easier is it going to be to dismantle the nuclear family if they eliminate your ability to be able to parent your child like you want to? There are currently policies in schools that cover tens of millions of kids. Parents Defending Ed does a great job monitoring this. There are policies in schools right now that are affecting tens of millions of kids where kids can go to school, identify as a different gender and by different pronouns than they do at home, and the teachers have to lie to you. It is school policy that the teachers lie to you. That is an attack on parental rights. There was a symposium at the University of Connecticut Law School last year where some of the best legal minds in the country got together and talked about how do we attack parental rights. There are articles in every major U.S. publication all the time about how parental rights are just stupid and we should get rid of them. And our parental rights, even in the best interest of the child, this is going on right in front of us right now. And the origin point is radical queer Marxism that's pushed by radical revolutionary socialists in the United States. And if you don't believe me, come watch them on my YouTube channel. Come watch them on my Rumble channel. I will show you them saying it. You don't have to take my word for it. Just come and watch. We did one earlier today about abolish the family. I did a Socialism Saturday this past week about abolish the family. I read what I consider to be the Queer Marxism Manifesto. It's called Towards a Queerist Insurrection by the Mary Nardini Gang. I read it on my channel. I'm going to put it up in a podcast. I did it in Twitter Space too, so you can access it on there. And that's just what I've done in the past week. Come watch the video. Come see for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. They're doing it out in the open, and no one is informing you of this because they don't want to pay attention to it. So I'll do it. I guess. All right, guys, that's all I have. I'll see you soon.